Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just following up on the previous question, General Griffin, would you agree that attribution of negligence as a result of delay in care as a causation of death is basically an adjudicatory process that needs to be undertaken?
That's correct.
You noted in your testimony that wait times are not the only issue that you were focusing on, and that when people do not follow headquarters directives and mislead the headquarters, there have to be consequences. And you are investigating some 97 facilities. Have you completed those investigations on any of those facilities?
We have completed 12.
12.
We've turned over 12 files to the department for their whatever action they deem appropriate. All the others are in process.
As a result of these 12 files, has the VA undertaken any criminal or administrative proceedings, disciplinary proceedings?
Well, the criminal decision lies with the U.S. Attorney's offices that we're working with around the country. VA owns the decision on administrative action, and in fact, shortly after our first report was sent to the VA, they did take administrative action. We are trying to get these done as quickly as possible so that they can move out in every instance where they need to, but we have to make sure we have all the facts right prior to declaring that we're through and this is the final product. So we're working diligently on that, but we have a lot of other prosecutions outside of wait time areas which have led to over 500 arrests a year for the last 6 years that you can't just drop. A lot of them are threat and assault cases, drug diversion cases, abuse of fiduciary veterans. I mean, so we're working very seriously to try and get through the wait times, but all these other investigations that were already in progress need to be seen through to fruition.
Thank you for giving us a fuller context in which the VA is undertaking these kinds of proceedings. You mentioned in your testimony and in your conclusion that the VA must address cultural changes, cultural issues. Can you talk a little bit more about how a system as vast as the VA can make cultural changes, and what sort of cultural changes are you talking about, and what do you suggest that they do to implement these kinds of cultural changes?
Well, I think if you have a culture where it's okay to disregard directives from the most senior people in your administration, that you need to come to realize that that is not acceptable behavior, and perhaps you will no longer be employed by the department. When people realize that it's a new day in that respect, I think they'll be a little more vigilant in how they receive directives from their senior leaders in Washington. And I believe that the efforts that are undertaken in the various town hall meetings and feedback sessions with the VSOs and so on can also make the entire organization realize these are the types of things we need to be doing.
Do you think that the provisions in the law that was passed, the Veterans Bill, that would allow for more expeditious processes for disciplining, that would help to change the culture in the VA in a positive way?
I think that in a number of personnel areas in the federal government, it can be frustrating at the pace that it requires in order to go through all of the due process activities. I think the ultimate impact that it'll have on the department is to be determined. It'll depend on how frequently it's used, whether there are any challenges, being that VA is the only department in the government with the new abbreviated time frames and so on.
The report, your report, put forth a number of recommendations. I'm particularly looking at recommendations 17 to 23, and the VA has said that they will meet those recommendations by September 2015. Are there any of those recommendations that you consider are of more priority than others for the VA to meet?
Well, there's a reason why our number one recommendation was that the department had to get with the regional council in Phoenix and with VHA medical professionals to look at the names of the 45 veterans we identified and to take appropriate action regarding potential liability or institutional disclosures and so on. I think that's very important.
So basically, your recommendations are in the order of priorities that you...
No, it's in the order of the presentation of the report, but I personally would have to say that I think that's one of the most important items. I would also say that as we were doing the work, and we discovered 3,500 veterans that weren't on an official list anywhere, we immediately turned those over to the Phoenix staff so they could be seeking out those veterans and not delay their care any more than it had already been delayed.
Thank you. Mr. Chairman, my time is up.